president, now a prisoner. Nicolas Maduro handcuffed in blackout goggles and protective headphones, robbed of his country and his senses.
The illegitimate dictator Maduro was the kingpin of a vast criminal network responsible for trafficking colossal amounts of deadly and illicit drugs.
Hours later, he and wife Celia Flores arrived in New York, escorted off the plane by dozens of federal agents. A change of outfit and a change of scenery. Maduro's first steps on American soil, surrounded but appearing relatively calm. The DEA showing off their catch, 2 thumbs up in handcuffs. A defiant pose from the embattled Venezuelan leader. From there, he was taken to the Drug Enforcement Administration's offices, marched in front of the cameras for a perp walk.
Good night. Happy New Year.
And officially charged. Then transported by synchronised helicopters across the Empire State. The Statue of Liberty and New York's sparkling skyline, the last thing they laid eyes on, before arriving to a sea of officers surrounding the Metropolitan Detention Centre in Brooklyn that has housed Sean Diddy Combs and alleged United Healthcare assassin Luigi Mangione.
My Baba, they always say, for market.
Taken from his slumber, the extraordinary mission to capture and remove him was conducted under the cloak of darkness.
This operation, known as Operation Absolute Resolve, was discreet, precise, and conducted during the darkest hours.
It was months in the planning, more than 150 aircraft involved, including F-22s, F-35s, F-18s, E-18s, E-2s and B-1 bombers.
Employing weapons to ensure the safe passage of the helicopters into the target area.
A large-scale strike across Venezuela's capital.
For a single purpose, to get an interdiction force into downtown Caracas.
US helicopters arriving at Maduro's compound at 2:01 a.m. Delta Force soldiers finding the Venezuelan leader sleeping alongside his wife.
It's one of the most stunning, effective and powerful displays of American military might and competence in American history.
Donald Trump was locked and loaded in a makeshift situation room at Mar-a-Lago, flanked by his secretaries of state and defense.
What all of us witnessed last night was sheer guts and grit, gallantry and glory of the American warrior.
Venezuela's vice president is demanding his release.
La inmediata liberación.
There is only one president in this country, Nicolas Maduro, and declared the South American country will never be a US colony. Maduro was an illegitimate ruler. He did not win the last election. Venezuela's Nobel Peace Prize winning opposition leader, Maria Corina Machado, has called for her candidate, Edmundo Gonzalez, to now be recognised. Trump says the opposition doesn't have the respect of the country to govern.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper and judicious transition.
Near the presidential palace in the capital, Maduro's supporters burned the American flag and called for his return. But the mood in Caracas was mostly muted, many queuing for groceries, a small act of control in the midst of uncertainty. What will happen tomorrow? What will happen in the next hour, says this resident. But there was elation in Florida, Spain, Chile and at the Colombian border from Venezuelans who had already left.
Colombia is now mobilising its forces in an attempt to fortify the region and the border with Venezuela. Already, close to 8 million Venezuelans have fled the Maduro regime, and tonight, with real concerns about the stability of this region, the Colombian government is now bracing to bear the brunt of further waves.
Tonight, Maduro and his wife have been charged with conspiracy to commit narco-terrorism, the importation of cocaine and weapons charges.
Don't play games. Don't play games with this president's in office, because it's not going to turn out well.
The message from the White House is clear. F-A-F-O.
He effed around and he found out.
In Colombia, Lauren Tomazi, 9 News.
It is believed Nicolas Maduro will face a New York court within the next 48 hours, and Donald Trump says there will be no further strikes on Venezuela as long as the country's vice president follows the plan. But as you heard just then, Delcy Rodriguez is not a willing participant, and in the past few hours, Venezuela's Supreme Court has now sworn in Rodriguez as the country's acting president in the absence of Maduro. Tonight we are in Cartagena, Colombia. At this point, this is the closest we can get to Venezuela because flights in and out of the country have been cancelled. This is the first time in more than a dozen years that Nicolas Maduro is no longer in charge, and it follows a 12-month pressure campaign.
It started on day one of Trump 2.0.
We're looking at Venezuela very strongly.
By September, America's first deadly strike on a boat from Venezuela bound for the US.
A lot of drugs in that boat.
Over 120 days, more than 30 strikes, at least 110 people killed. But the campaign was shifting to regime change, and Nicolas Maduro was in the sights of the president.
He doesn't want to around with the United States.
In a show of force, more American military might was sent to the Caribbean, but Maduro was defiant.
Not war, not war, not war.
The 63-year-old danced in front of supporters. He brandished a sword, warning of imperialist aggression. By December, the US started seizing oil tankers, leaving Venezuela.
We're keeping the ships also.
Now they have. The 63-year-old former bus driver was vice president to Hugo Chavez, the controversial revolutionary leader. In 2013, when Chavez died, Maduro took the reins. In last year's election, Maduro lost, but refused to concede, coercing Edmundo Gonzalez to accept defeat.
After July, it was definitely a commitment to preserve power no matter what. That changed, I think, the calculations not only of the United States, but also for a variety of other actors regionally, but also inside.
The last 24 hours have added to America's long history of regime change, from the failed Bay of Pigs invasion of Cuba in 1961 to wars in the Middle East, including Iraq. Maduro's capture draws similarities with this in 1989.
The Panamanian people want democracy.
When George H.W. Bush ordered 24,000 US troops into Panama to topple dictator Manuel Noriega. Noriega hid in the Vatican embassy before surrendering. He was flown to the US, tried on, among other things, drugs charges, and convicted. But tonight, with Venezuela, there's also the issue of oil. The country has the largest reserves in the world, estimated to be the equivalent of 300 billion barrels. The same resource has been at the centre of questions over past conflicts involving the US, the first Gulf War and the war in Iraq 22 years ago. US oil companies have claimed Venezuela owes them billions after seizing their infrastructure almost 20 years ago. Tonight, President Trump says he's taking what's American.
And we want it back.
The Peace Through Strength Commander-in-Chief has made his biggest power play yet. In the United States, Jonathan Kersley, 9 News.
US correspondent Reed Butler joins us now from Washington, D.C.
We appreciate your support as we continue to bring you valuable content. Every like, share, and subscription helps us grow and reach more people who can benefit from our videos. Kindly like, share for awareness, and subscribe to get more valuable videos like these.
Could target Volodymyr Zelensky, although he had other ideas. How should we react, the president asks? If it's possible, yes, with dictators like this, and the United States of America knows what to do next. Leaders around the world last night unaware, tonight unwilling to intervene.
I want to establish the facts first. I want to speak to President Trump. I want to speak to allies. As I say, I can be absolutely clear that we were not involved.
In a tweet, Anthony Albanese said Australia urges parties to support dialogue and diplomacy. Emmanuel Macron of France calling for peaceful, democratic transition of power. Italian PM Giorgia Meloni, external military action is not the way to put an end to totalitarian regimes. China's foreign ministry deeply shocked and strongly condemns the move. From nearby Chile, today it's Venezuela. Tomorrow, it could be any other with any excuse.
The sovereignty of individuals.
Operations should serve as warning to anyone who would threaten American sovereignty.
If I lived in Havana and I was in the government, I'd be concerned.
Charles Croucher, 9 News. Could target Volodymyr Zelensky, although he had other ideas. How should we react, the president asks? If it's possible, yes, with dictators like this, and the United States of America knows what to do next.
How the United States captured the president of Venezuela. What triggered the intervention? The chain of events began quietly. According to senior Western intelligence officials, speaking under strict anonymity, a classified multinational investigation uncovered what was described as a state-directed network involving narcotics trafficking routes, production and smuggling of drugs like cocaine, especially into United States, linked directly to Venezuela's presidential office. The most alarming finding, sources said, was intelligence indicating imminent disruption of maritime oil corridors in the Caribbean, an act that would have sent shockwaves through global energy markets. Diplomatic warnings were issued through back channels. Emergency meetings were held with regional allies. When those efforts reportedly failed, the situation escalated into what U.S. officials later described as a containment emergency. The U.S. government's decision. Inside the White House Situation Room, weeks of debate followed. A narrow option gained traction, a precision capture operation aimed solely at the president, intended to remove what officials viewed as the central command node of the alleged network. Legal teams reportedly worked alongside military planners to frame the mission under a special international security mandate, citing transnational crime and imminent threat. The operation received a classified authorization and a code name used only within a closed circle, Operation Silent Horizon. Military rehearsals and preparation rehearsals were conducted far from public view. Special operations units trained on full-scale replicas of a Venezuelan coastal industrial zone constructed in the American Southwest. Every movement was timed to the second. Simulated convoys, language drills, and contingency captures were repeated dozens of times. Satellite analysts mapped guard rotations. Cyber units rehearsed short-term radar disruptions designed not to cripple systems, but to create momentary blindness, measured in minutes. Meanwhile, diplomatic teams quietly prepared emergency communication lines in case the mission surfaced prematurely. The insider critical to the plan was an insider. According to intelligence sources, a senior Venezuelan security official, disillusioned and facing internal purges, provided confirmation of a rare deviation from the president's usual movements, a scheduled inspection of a remote coastal energy facility with reduced military presence. That confirmation narrowed the window from months to 72 hours. Jets, drones, and deployment. On the night of the operation, U.S. military activity intensified across the region, but invisibly. Stealth aircraft launched from undisclosed locations, high-altitude surveillance drones established persistent Overwatch electronic warfare aircraft, positioned offshore naval assets moved into international waters under routine patrol cover. No airspace was formally violated until the final phase. Entry into Venezuelan territory. Just before dawn, radar interference briefly disrupted regional monitoring systems. A small special operations team inserted along the coastline using low observable aircraft. They advanced inland under drone guidance, avoiding populated areas entirely. Local communications experienced what authorities would later describe as a temporary technical anomaly. The arrest. The president's convoy arrived shortly after sunrise. What followed lasted less than 9 minutes. Security vehicles were disabled electronically. The convoy was isolated. No shots were fired. According to fictional internal briefings, the president was informed he was under international detention and placed into custody. A sealed document was left behind, declaring the operation complete and emphasizing the absence of civilian casualties. transportation, sea to air. The detainee was transported to a U.S. naval vessel stationed offshore. Within hours, a military transport aircraft departed from an undisclosed airstrip, escorted by fighter jets until it exited South American airspace. Mid-air refueling ensured no intermediate landings. By nightfall, the aircraft landed at a secured U.S. military base. Landing in the United States, the arrival was not publicly announced. The detainee was transferred to a high-security federal facility under a sealed legal process. Prosecutors unveiled charges related to international trafficking, terrorism financing, and crimes against humanity. Only then did the world learn what had occurred. Reaction inside Venezuela. The reaction was immediate and divided. Government loyalists condemned the operation as an act of aggression. But in several major cities, crowds gathered in spontaneous celebration. Videos circulated of people waving flags, chanting and crying openly. For many Venezuelans, the arrest symbolized a long-awaited reckoning. Prosecution and global fallout international courts debated jurisdiction. Emergency summits were called. Markets reacted sharply. As proceedings moved forward, the former president appeared in court, not as a head of state, but as a defendant. The operation ended without invasion, without occupation, and without a single public casualty. But its consequences reshaped diplomacy, sovereignty debates, and the limits of modern power projection. Closing reflection. Whether history would judge the operation as justice or overreach remained uncertain. But one truth was undeniable. The world woke up different the morning after Silent Horizon.
We appreciate your support as we continue to bring you valuable content. Every like, share, and subscription helps us grow and reach more people who can benefit from our videos. Kindly like, share for awareness, and subscribe to get more valuable videos like these. Also, let's have your observations and contributions in the comment section below. Thank you so much. We value you.